Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is September 20 somehow. Um, I always seem surprised by the date, but time keeps going on. Welcome. This is Change the Shed, and it is September 20, 2023. And we're back to do some tapestry weaving. So we're going to have a fun day. I am cutting off some pieces today. So I have been collecting little pieces. I tend to finish them and then just like prop the loom up. And as an instructor, I happen to have quite a lot of small looms. And so I just get out a new loom to start a new piece. But that means that there tend to be a bunch of tapestries that are either not quite finished or, they have an inch left or something. And I decided it was time to get them all off the looms. So we're cutting off 4 tapestries today. I thought I was going to make it to 5, which is what I said on Instagram, but the 5th one is not quite done. So if we have time, I will weave on that one a little bit. It's almost done. Everybody is coming in from everywhere. It's great to see you all. Barbara from San Diego, and Sharon and Mary's here from Wisconsin, and Janice from Oregon, and Leslie from Vermont. Julia's here from Germany. Hello from over the pond. Oh, Emily suggested we should make the cutoff a drinking game. And I said, well, maybe for those people in Europe where it's after 5 p.m. So, Julia, it's okay if you want to make it a drinking game. I'm not a drinker myself, but you could, well, that's not quite true. I like a glass of wine, but maybe you could drink some tea, you all who are earlier in the day as I am. It's about 10:30 here in Colorado. Okay, cool. Hi, Linda from Scotland, also later in the day there. Nan's here from New York, and Brenda from Pennsylvania, and Renee's here from Massachusetts, and Marlena from Texas. Not too hot there. That's good, finally. Texas had a rough summer. Oh, Renee's commenting on my spinning wheel, which is over there. That is my workhorse, man. That is my shacked ladybug, and it is the first wheel I ever bought, and it's the only wheel that I own. Actually, you might have seen that I was gifted another ladybug, a cherry one, recently, which I have not yet put to the test, but I'm excited to have another ladybug so that, like with looms, I can have several projects on the go, right? That's what I need, is more tools so I can have more unfinished projects in process. But I really like the ladybug. For me, I'm not a master spinner by any means, and so having just this workhorse wheel. Anyway, love the ladybug. Yes, Jessica says, will there be champagne or something symbolic for the cutoffs? Just tea in my sheet mug. Oh, this is a mug from, you guys have probably seen this company at, oh God, what are they called? See, I'm not even gonna remember what the name is. At fiber festivals. I got this one at Estes Park. I have to get my sheep together. Turns out I have this and the Estes Park Wool Festival t-shirt on today for whatever reason. Love Estes Park Wool Festival. Jennifer's here from Kentucky. Sue's from Alabama. Sherry's here. Good morning, Sherry. Good to see you. I think she might be in California. Lone is here from, I'm probably saying your name wrong, but from Denmark. Welcome. Another person who is later in the day can have real champagne. Julia says she'll open the champagne now. Excellent. Thank you, Julia. Not that you can't have a glass of champagne at 10:30 in the morning either, you all. Karen's here from Surrey. And she has her own ladybug. That's fantastic. Jeanette is here from just down the road in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. It's very close to where I live. All right. I'm so happy y'all are here today. Let's just cut some tapestries off some little looms. And had a weird camera thing this morning, so I just set up my old camera that I know is going to work, and we'll just go with that. I just have one loom that I wanted a different camera for, so. Susan, thank you. She says it's going to be a great show. Sometimes I think about Change the Shed as a show. I'm like, the show notes or whatever, and like, it doesn't really feel like a show to me. I hope it doesn't feel like a show to you guys either, but I think that's really funny. So thanks, Susan. Yeah, it's been fun to do Change the Shed for, goodness gracious, how long has it been? 3.5 years now? Wow. Um, Change the Shed's almost graduating with a 4-year stint. It's been fun. Karen's here from cooler Southern California. That's awesome. Michelle from New York. Glad you're back, Michelle. All right, let's see. I should have brought another chair in here, but I did not. So you'll just see me scooting around today as I move this chair over. Here is, I have clearly changed my settings when I did that interview with Sarah. Y'all remember that? Let's turn this off. And I bet that will fix my, nope. There we go. Just have to find the right button. Okay, here's the first one. And, oh, Jessica asked, that's a good question, Jessica. Have I ever had a blog about cameras? No, I have never done that. Mostly because I'm not an expert and I feel like my recommendations might not be good for other people. But I started this whole teaching online extravaganza with a camcorder, which I just found the other day. Still works, just a simple Canon camcorder that, I don't know, probably cost $300 or less. And that was all my equipment. Like, that was the audio, that was everything. So if you're watching the current Warp and Weft, that is what I'm shooting that on. So that class is getting a facelift with some new camera equipment and better audio. But yeah, I'm now using a Canon DSLR, but anyway, good question, Jessica. Yeah, Sybil's here from Switzerland and Paula's here from the UK. Hooray! Cool. I'm glad you guys find me entertaining. I watched a dog video. Of course, we got 2 new dogs. Here's the dogs. Let me just show you. These are the dogs. We just got these 2 little guys a couple months ago. And I've been watching a lot of dog training videos. And there's this woman who, actually our vet recommended this particular video. And she's so annoying. And when I watch her, I'm like, I wonder if people find me, probably when I'm going on like this, you do find me that as annoying as I find this particular woman. But anyway, who knows? Hopefully it's fun to watch Change the Shed. So that's a big part of it. This little piece is something I did for those of you in Summer of Tapestry 2023, this past summer. Saw this one for one of the prompts. This was a detail of mushroom gills. And the mushroom really was this sort of orange color. The blue was something I chose to make the orange sort of pop because it's the complementary color. Oh, is this out of focus, Nan? Anybody else saying that I'm out of focus? To me, everything looks really clear, but if this loom is out of focus, let me know. I have it set to, yeah, the camera's focusing. Okay, but these things do happen, so it could be. Okay, so let's cut off this one. This is the little mushroom tapestry from Summer of Tapestry 2023. And this is a Handy Woman Shop 6 dent. I think it's her medium size loom. I really like this loom. All right, all I do when I take these off, this loom, is just cut the warp and I leave enough. This is enough to do a little braid. And then that's why I had this spacer on the bottom too, because I wanted enough here to do the braid. And I know on this loom that it wraps around the bottom, so I'm going to get that little bit of extra length there. So when I finish this, I will cut those little loops, and then I'll carefully cut out this twining so that I have this little bit of fringe that is long enough to do the braid. Let's see, I'll zoom that in a little bit so you can see it. And the back, the back is crazy pants. So I'll go through and sure I will have more finishing videos on the whole thing on the back. Sometimes when I first take things off the loom, I'll just trim some of these so that it's not such a big, so it doesn't feel so overwhelming, but there are a lot of splices and things in there that I will clean up. So there's the first one. That is, gosh, I don't even know if I had a title for it. It's my mushroom tapestry, and I can't even remember which prompt it was for. Somebody in Change who was in Summer of Tapestry might remember. I also sometimes start, I use a little piece of blue tape on the back of these peg looms sometimes. So I want to take that off as soon as possible. I don't like to leave the tape on the looms for a long time. So this has been on the loom actually probably a long time, because I bet I wove this in like May. So that's a long time to have tape on a wooden tool. All right. So there's that one. The next one is one y'all haven't seen yet. And let me know if things aren't looking good enough for you to see them. This is an example for any of you who are coming to my class in Taos in 2 weeks. This is a sample for that class. Oh shoot, let me get the yarn. This is Joe Barry's Taos Wools Chica yarn. So it's churro tapestry weight, and it's really beautiful. It's just, it has a really particular sheen when you're weaving with it. It's just this really pleasurable beauty that churro has that's just really fun to use. So anyway, I'm doing several samples for that class, and this is one of them. It is a class called Tapestry in Taos, and we're weaving about Taos. It's for the Taos Wools Festival. So if you are in Taos or can get to Taos, New Mexico, October 7 is the day of the festival, and there's going to be some very cool. It's a small festival. It's not the old Taos Wool Festival. That has moved to Santa Fe. This is a new thing that Joe Barry's doing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So there's lots of really great artists and vendors and food, and there's a beautiful gallery show and stuff. So come to Taos on October 7, and I will see you there if you come. Jean's here from Texas. Yeah, Marlena says she loves Joe's Chica yarns. Aren't they great? They're just lovely. So I use 2 strands of this yarn. This is a saffron loom, and I use 2 strands at 8 EPI, and that works quite well. So it's thin enough you can use 2, and that's how you get the effects, the color blending effects, is that there's 2 strands happening there. If you use the thicker churro that they have with just 1 strand, of course, you can't do the blending, but you can do, that's a traditional weight for rugs and stuff that people do in the American Southwest a lot. Yeah, so this one is 8 EPI, and I used a wool warp because at the class we're using the wool warp that Joe sells. It's a 2-ply. I think it might be made by Jagerspun. I'm not completely sure. Joe would know, and he sells it on his website. It's the same warp that Weaving Southwest used to sell when they were in business. So nice, strong wool warp, really nice on your hands. It is fun to see how it acts differently than the cotton. And I'll probably do a blog post about that sometime, because as I was weaving this, I was like, oh, wow, there's some real differences there in terms of how it acts. The knots don't stay as well as one of the things. This is the double half hitch knot, and they were harder to get really tight with the wool, which I thought was interesting, than they are with the cotton. But the cotton is, the wool warp's a little grabbier, and it meshes with the wool weft really nicely. So Anna, you're here, yay! She's in the fairy queue for Shetland. Awesome. Glad you tuned in, Anna. Anna runs Tapestry and Conversation, and she and Irene run Nearly Wild Weaving, which is an amazing thing they do over in Scotland and the UK, where they do trips, like fun classes and trips and weaving outside and all kinds of really cool things. And they also do this tapestry and conversation where they have chats with tapestry weavers, and they're always amazing. So if you subscribe to their their newsletter, if you just go to Nearly Wild Weaving, I think, and you'll find their stuff. So even if you're in the US, they do a lot of stuff online. It's really great. Anyway, glad to see you, Anna. Nan said, what's the website for the wool? taoswools.com. So Taos, TAOSWOOLS.com. Okay, let's take this little guy off. This is the Merrick Saffron, and I have it on a 14-inch rod. So if you have seen me use the saffron or taken like some of my intro to tapestry weaving, you know I love the longer rod. In fact, I am using saffrons for this class I'm teaching in Taos. And I realized that all the rods I have are the shorter ones. I think they come with like a 10-inch rod. So I'm off to the hardware store today to see if I can get 13, 14-inch rods for the saffrons that I have, because I didn't leave enough time to get them from Merrick's. I could probably have them express them to me if I can't find them at the hardware store, but the threaded rod is just normal threaded rod, so your local store. If you want to add threaded rod to your saffron, just take the one that came with the loom down there, make sure the nuts fit on it, and same thing for the Chloe loom, I think. I have a Chloe loom, right behind me on that little bench. Finally started using the Chloe loom for a couple things. I have a couple different versions of it, so I'll be doing a blog post about that in the next couple months. So I like the loom. Spoiler alert. I like the Chloe loom. I think it was, I was skeptical because I like the saffron. Okay. But the Chloe, I think, turns out is a good loom. Not that we should be surprised. Okay, let's cut this one off. This is one that I wove all the way to the bottom. I do this in the Intro to Tapestry Weaving class, which is a favorite way for me to use this loom because it gives me the longest warp. I have a blog post about why really long warps are easier to weave on. So if I had left, enough room here to do a braid or something at the end, this tapestry would have been way up here, which would have still been possible, but the weaving at the end would have been really hard. So, okay, so on this loom, I actually release the tension a little bit. This is a loom that has tensioning, so if you just release the tension, it won't all like pop apart. And then you can actually, let's just do it this way. Instead of cutting it, I could have cut it just like I did on the Handy Woman Shop loom, but I can also just undo it. I'm going to cut this last warp, and I'll just cut these two, and then these can just lift off. And at the bottom, let me zoom that in just so you can see it better. I'm just going to pull this off. And nice fabric on this wool. It's really nice. The churro is, I think, mostly sourced from New Mexico, maybe some from southern Colorado. So it's really fun to use a local product. This is one of those optical illusions that as you're weaving, I was really, really convinced that it was narrower at the bottom and was wider. And I kept measuring and I'm like, no, I'm sure it's narrow at the bottom. Even when I hold it like this, to me, it looks narrower at the bottom, but look at that. When I fold it in half, it's not, it's the exact same width. And it's just, that's why measuring as you're going. If you think you're drawing in or pushing out, measure it before you assume that's what's happening, because whatever's happening in the weaving can fool your brain into thinking, oh my gosh, this is drawing in terribly, when actually it's really minor or not drawing in at all. So that's just a little tip. And then here, this is a really grabby wool. So when I go to finish this, I used splices. So I will just be snipping off all of the little splices. This is something that people in northern New Mexico who use churro for their projects always do. And I did it when I was learning Rio Grande weaving at Northern New Mexico College. And this wool really holds well. So this is a quick finish because most of these tails I'm just going to be able to cut off. All right, so there's the second one on the saffron. Let's see, the third one, I have a list so I don't mess it up. The third one is this loom. Let's see. Oh, let me back you up again so you can see the loom. This is that frame loom. You all probably remember this. I don't even know how long ago I started this project. Sybil might know because I did this because of Sybil. So she lives in the UK and she was curious about Weaver's Bazaar heavy yarn, and I had a bunch of the heavy yarn, but I had never woven with it. I bought a bunch of Weaver's Bazaar long in the past and have since bought a lot more because it's a beautiful, amazing yarn. If you live in the UK, check it out. It's really great. Also, their shipping even to the US is fantastic. So anywhere in the world, great yarn. Anyway, I started the sample. I did it on changetheshed several days. Just testing out this yarn at, pretty sure it's at 8 EPI. Yep, it's 8 EPI, one strand at a time. So it's a little bit thin for that, but it weaves up really beautifully. It's a little thin for 8 EPI, but it packs in nicely. And anyway, I'm curious to see when I take this off what the fabric will look like. Just checking to make sure y'all are still there. Okay. Do you ever have that thing where you're like, I'm talking to myself? Okay, so this is that loom that Weaver's Bazaar sells this loom. It's a frame loom made by Andrew Dickinson. Gorgeous loom, really fun. I love these big tighteners. And he sells clamps, which you can go back to the old changetheshed where I talk about the clamps that hold them on. I might have put them away. I don't see them right here. Oh, I do see them right here. They look like this. They go on the table and they hold the loom. There's 2 of them and they're fantastic. So love that whole setup for a frame loom. Okay, anyway, for this one, I'm going to cut the ordering cord is what I call those. And at the top of the loom, this is just a shedding stick. I wanted the shed at the top to be narrower than the top of the loom, so I picked up the shed with the shed stick to make the space between narrower than it would be when I take this out. The space is much bigger. That's okay, except that the farther up you weave, the more chance you'll have ridging if there's a great big shed there. So let's release the tension. Actually, pulling that stick out released the tension pretty well, but all right. And I am gonna cut this one. I think this is definitely a thicker warp. I think it's 12.9. Let's look. Might have been 12.12. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's 12.12. So this is a much thicker warp than I usually use at 8 EPI. It worked great. And I did that because the heavy, let's see, Weaver's Bazaar heavy, I was smart enough to put an example of it here. So there's the Weaver's Bazaar heavy. It's, I don't have the numbers on me of what exactly here. Here's a comparison to just Array for those of you who have used Array. Here's a comparison of the size. I use 3 or 4 strands of the Array, and I'm using 1 strand of the heavy yarn. Anyway, let's cut this one off. I'm going to just snip these loops at the very bottom. Oh, you can't see that. Hang on. I'm just cutting them off from the bottom of the loom. tangled up. Okay. So that is this frame loom is a lovely loom. I enjoy that loom a lot. I will be using it a lot more. So this, nice fabric. I can see why you like this yarn, Sybil. This is actually the first piece of any size I've woven with just the heavy yarn without anything else mixed in with it. So, ooh, I like it. It's firm enough to be a nice tapestry fabric, but it has a really nice sheen to it. Let's see if you can see it a little better. It's just really pretty. Nice. Yeah, and Sybil says she still loves this particular yarn. They don't have as many colors in the heavy yarn as they do in the fine and medium, but so, and again, sometimes I'll just trim off some of these tails because everything gets tangled. And so this piece doesn't have a lot, it doesn't have a ton of finishing. I will finish this, getting the slits stitched up. It looks like I was doing some splicing or attempting to do some splicing. It's not a yarn that splits quite as well as some 2-plies, but we'll experiment and see how that does with this sample. So yeah, that was a fun one. I really like that yarn. Just go on to know what kind of scissors these are. These are the scissors I always use. They are Fiskars. And there you can see it says Fiskars 5-inch. If you just go to the fabric store, at least in the States, they have a whole line of Fiskars, and these I really like. They do go dull after a while, so I started putting the date of when I bought them and started using them. This one looks like I got in September of 2021 because I have some pairs that are dull now, and so I believe they are fairly easy to sharpen if you have somebody who does scissor sharpening. So I'm saving those up, and I'm going to have all of my pairs sharpened at some point before too long. All right. That was a fun one. This is the one sample I have, the next one that is on an upright loom. So this is something that you all probably also saw me weaving on Change the Shed. This is on a Lanny loom, and I have a picture to show you the whole loom. This is the sample of Jamieson and Smith. So let me find the picture. Here we go. It's this loom, and I do have extenders on it, and I also have the Shasta combs. So if you can see here, the combs are, can you see that? Yeah, there. So Mirex makes an attachment for the regular looms that makes it like a peg loom, sort of like the saffron, just for easy warping. And so you can see there's only one layer of warp there. I like those for samples. If I'm weaving, like this is the last sample from a class I did called something about tapestry yarn simplified. No, that's the loom title. I did a whole small class, workshop class about tapestry yarns, and you can still take that class if it's in my class library on Pathright. But I did a lot of sampling of different tapestry yarns, and this is a yarn, Jamieson and Smith. It's Shetland wool, and this is the jumper weight, 2-ply jumper weight. This yarn is available in lots of yarn stores, and at the time, the Loopy U was still in Fort Collins. And they had a ton of colors of this. And I was like, oh, if you can get this in your local yarn store, that would be a really great option if it's a good yarn. So my assessment is that the fabric is really great. And we'll see in a minute when we take it off if I still think so. The yarn is a little bouncy. It's a great sweater yarn, but look how stretchy it is. So as you're weaving, it feels stretchy. It doesn't act quite like a tapestry yarn like this is the Weaver's Bazaar Heavy. It doesn't, when I pull on it, it doesn't bounce. And this does bounce. Because this is made for knitting and this is made for tapestry weaving. But it is a better option than a lot of knitting yarns. Okay, so anyway, let's take this one off. I loosen the tension. Let me back that out. And So the reason I have the extenders on here is probably I was going to weave a second sample on this loom, although now that I look at it, I probably would never have done it, because if this were a continuous warp, I definitely would have woven a second sample because I could have turned this around. But there's room here to weave a second sample, but I don't like to weave that close to the shedding device, even if I move it up. So this is just a super fast way to warp the loom, and it's possible that this loom already had the extenders on, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go with it. I wouldn't have needed the extenders for this. I do like the extenders on the Lanny loom if I want to weave something narrow and really long. It's a great option. Looms. I could talk about looms forever, y'all. So what I'm doing here is just releasing some of the tension on the loom so that I can just pull it off. And let's see, neutral shed, and I'm just going to cut it because this is a really long warp. And then you can see this part. We'll pull this off the bottom. And I did this the same way I do on the saffron, where I do that sort of little bottom tree. I just did it on this particular project, little bottom bottom treatment. Let's look at this sample a little bit. Let's get this loom out of the way. Okay, yeah, Jameson. Jameson and Smith, Shetland wool. I know some people do really like to use this for tapestry. I wanted to try it mostly because there's a big color selection and you can often find it in knitting shops. So if this is the only yarn you can find in your knit shop and that's where you need to buy your tapestry yarn, this is a great option. It also, you know, this is just like 25 gram ball, so you can get a lot more colors in small put-ups. If you're doing smaller tapestries, it's nice to be able to buy, like, you know, for, I don't know what these are each, $5 each or something. You can buy more colors because they come in smaller bits. Yeah, okay, this turned out great. I'm going to do a braid at the top. I think that this will be the sort of thing I'm gonna, this is a sample, so I'm gonna trial this, but I can just cut those off because they're spliced, and this is a pretty grabby wool yarn. So the finishing will be pretty easy, and I like the fabric. Yeah, it's nice. So this is a much better choice than something like in that yarn class I talked about. Cascade 220 is probably the worst yarn I trialed for that class. I just hated it so much. It just moves all around, so hard to weave with. The construction of Cascade 220 is different than this knitting yarn. This is a standard 2-ply, and Cascade 220 is 4 plies plied together as one, and it's a very airy, bouncy yarn. Anyway, this is a much better choice in my opinion than Cascade 220, which also comes in a lot of colors and is at a lot of yarn shops. Okay, the bottom treatment, Leslie wanted to know about this. Basically, I just warped the loom, and so there's loops at the bottom. And the way I warp the saffron, I talk about this in the intro class, these loops are doubled. I could have done it the other way. I don't know if you can see that here. You can sort of see that it goes over, these loops are fairly long. They go over 4 warps. I just do it this way because it allows me to double the selvage, but I could have made this at the top of the loom and just had single loops on this edge. So it's just warping the loom, and then there's a row of double half hitch knots right up against those pegs. And then I did a tiny bit of warp as weft, and then I started the weaving. So it's something I like to do on the saffron because, or the Shasta combs, it works on that too. Because the loom is short and I want to use as much of the warp to be free as possible for the weaving. If I want a braid at the edge kind of thing. Okay, cool. So I have 4 looms. That's right, Susan. 4 looms freed up for tapestry weaving. Let's see, we've got 4 free looms. Mushroom, Mesas, Weaver's Bazaar, Jameson sample, And the last one I was going to have done but did not have done yet is the first bird tapestry. So we have another few minutes and I'm just going to pop that on this table and show you where I am with it. Let's see. Hang on. I'm going to go back here and I'll find the loom. I did set it up so I could find stuff. It's this one. Almost done. Did not quite make it last night. So let's see. That looks pretty good. And let me grab, I got my little cartoon. Some of you will remember I wove this and changed the shed quite a few times. And I set up my colors for the next bird. Okay. So here is, let's see if I can, I've got yoga blocks up. Here we go again. There we go. Yoga blocks at the top of the loom to hold it at a slight diagonal so I have room to work. If it's flat on the table, it's almost impossible. A lot of people like to put these kinds of looms on a easel. So, but here's the top of the pipe loom. This is probably one of the first pipe looms I made because look how bad the soldering is. But it's all right. So this little piece was just about the birds in my backyard, and each of these little pieces are the colors of a particular bird. As I was weaving it, I felt like, and I still feel like it's very busy, so much fun to weave, but just really, really busy. So I might at some point use this concept again and use sort of bigger dividers to have like a calmer background color and then little bits of the birds. Anyway, this is the goldfinch in the spring when they're bright, bright yellow. I think I have a goldfinch. Let's see. This one here is goldfinch in the winter. Let me get a little closer there. So this one here was the goldfinch in the winter where they're really muted yellow. And this is in the spring where they're bright, bright, bright. And then the next little bit in here is house finch, which is one of my favorite birds to see just because I love that splash of pink. Here, they are pink, pinkish red. Sometimes they're bright red. And then they have some sort of brown and whitish. So my sheds are probably not right. Oh, look at that. Okay. I'm ready to put in an outline here. I'm going to use this tail. The part where the sheds are wrong, hold on, is right here, and I'm just going to use this tail to fix that because I can do an eccentric outline there. I talk about eccentric outlines more in the Tapestry Discovery box that's coming out in October. So that will be a fun one. And actually the sample from that is, oh, you can't see it right now. And then the next Tapestry Discovery box in January will be all about eccentric weaving. I have an outline in here. This house finch line goes all the way across, so that's nice. And I'm using this dark green for that. I just want one sequence. And we'll go, I can get this shed open just because it's the open shed. So there's a stick at the top holding that open, or the top of the loom. Get as much weft in there as I can. this outline. All right. Yeah, this summer tapestry class was all about, I think this was for the first prompt that was about pattern, Summer of Tapestry 2023. And so this was about both the pattern in the weaving and the pattern of the birds. I think that was the prompt it was for. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun weaving this, which begs the question of why it's not quite done, but it has been really fun to weave. On the side, I'm just putting in stripes of the colors that are in here. Let's put in for the house finch. Let's put in, let's start with this. This is cinnamon. This is all array. So cinnamon 3. Array from Gist yarn. I'm using 2 strands at, I believe this is 10 ends per inch. This is a, oh, I don't want to bring this one all the way over. There's another color that comes in there. Let's go to here. Am I going to do it this way? Because I don't have an actual plan of how to fill this in, I could do it something like this. Maybe I'll do it something like that. We'll make a plan on the fly. That one, yeah. Just checking with the cartoon to see if this brown, I want it to go all the way to the edge. So I was just looking to see how that will work. And then I'm going to, hang on. See if I can bring this in even closer. Sorry, I've got too much stuff in the way. Okay, let's see if I can make that stop changing focus. And I'm going to add in some of the red right here. Let's add in, I think I'm going to try mixing. I should have a picture of those house finches here, but I think I'm going to try mixing the, this is Lotus 2 and this is Cherry 2. It's amazing what weft bundling will do for color. Yeah, Michelle said she likes that I labeled the sketch by the bird instead of the color. I actually have a cheat sheet here with all the colors I'm going to use, but yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I totally agree, Michelle, that this piece is totally crazy pants. But this was the point. I mean, the point of the summer tapestry is just to have fun and to focus on something and try weaving it. And so this was a great example of something that was super fun to weave, but is not as super successful, in my opinion, like as a finished tapestry, kind of confusing, but really fun to weave, and it will be a nice piece in my tapestry diary collection, let's just say. It will be something that I will go back to and remember how much fun it was to weave, and I might use it for a bigger tapestry. All right, let's just put in probably going to regret using 2 butterflies of these yarns, but let's do this. All right, I will post the finished piece on the blog. The pink is kind of fun. It's not exactly the color of a house finch, but I don't think Array has the exact color that I am looking for. And for this purposes, it doesn't really matter. If this was a large format tapestry and I needed a particular color, of course I would just dye it. I say just dye it. I would spend 3 days trying to get that color with samples, and then I would dye it. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to fuss with this more. Yeah, I'm going to fuss with this more in future. Anyway, I got 4 free looms. And this one is almost free, and I actually have 1 more that is behind me next to that spinning wheel. That's the other bird tapestry that I showed you last time and said that, oh yeah, it'll be done. And then I said, no, I shouldn't promise, and it's not done yet. So it will be done soon. Would you tie the half hitch knots close to the pegs on your backpack looms? Great question. Yeah, the backpack looms are more like this. And so because the warp wraps all the way around, I would not do it. The point of this is that it is because the saffron pegs are pointing towards me, I can make these little loops, and they're just sort of part of a decorative edge. If I did that on this loom, yes, I could. The backpack looms work just like this. Yes, I could put a row of knots near the bottom, but I would have much longer loops. And then you would just have decorative loops, or I probably wouldn't cut them, because if those knots slide, the whole thing will fall apart. But yeah, on the backpack looms, it's just different. The loom is just different. And so there isn't the same opportunity to make the really small loops that you can make on any loom that has the pegs coming towards you versus slots, peg versus slots. All right, thanks y'all. Glad you could come today and have a really great week. I hope you're doing some weaving, and remember, if you want to see, sometimes I refer to old episodes and stuff, and I make show notes that are on my website at tapestryweaving.com. If you look under online learning, it says Change the Shed, and there's links to all the stuff I'm talking about there every week. I don't know if anybody ever looks at those links, but I do spend time every week putting in links to what we talked about. So if I said something and you want to find it on the internet, that's where to find it. Anne asked if I have plans for these now naked looms. She said undressed. I said naked. No, they're going back in my pile of the next sample I have to do. I have a free loom. Actually, that's not true. I do have some plans for upcoming smaller tapestries, but I'm going to be using the Shacked Arras for some of those first. So yeah, thanks everybody. And yeah, I'll sometimes on Instagram stories I'll post when I'm actually finishing things if you want to see the what they look like once they're finished, or I'll put them in a blog post. Good to see everybody. Have a really great week. Keep weaving is the biggest thing, and y'all are awesome. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.